Hey everyone, Nate here. Today is a special video because today is my 1-year anniversary for playing tabletop role-playing games. I played my first role-playing game on May 10, 2014. And so today I just wanted to reflect on how I got started in role-playing games and what inspired me to give it a shot. So I guess the question is, what makes a guy who is 32 years old out of the blue decide that this is something he wants to do? So I guess the first thing to understand about me is I've always loved fantasy books. I read D&D novels when I was growing up, and I love The Lord of the Rings. I've just read a lot of fantasy books over the years, and I love them. Science fiction, love it. I've always loved games. I've always loved board games. I've always loved video games. I just happened to have never encountered a tabletop role-playing game. And, I did play a little bit of Hero Quest growing up, which is, a little bit akin to a tabletop role-playing game. I know a lot of tabletop role-playing gamers did have Hero Quest when they were kids. So, yeah, but what would inspire me to do this all of a sudden, to give it a shot? And I guess the answer lies in 2 books, and these are 2 books that are near and dear to my heart, and they're not D&D books, they're not even fantasy books really. The first one is Masters of Doom by David Kushner. David Kushner is a journalist who has written a couple books now about video games. This one is called How Two Guys Created an Empire and Transformed Pop Culture, and it's basically about John Romero and John Carmack and the founding of id Software that went on to create the game Doom. Before that, they had Wolfenstein and eventually Quake, Rage, many other games. But yeah, so how would a book like this inspire me to try D&D? Well, they talk in this book about their experiences with D&D. The author writes about how John Carmack would ran an ongoing campaign, and a lot of their ideas for the video games actually came from their D&D experiences. And that's really a common experience for many game designers, many video game designers nowadays, is that they drew a lot of their inspiration from D&D, and that's how they got their start in gaming, perhaps. So that was really inspirational. I think that even the name Quake, I believe, was like, I can't remember, I think it might have been a god in their D&D game. And, there's this mythical weapon, and, oh man, just the way that they describe it in here, just that John Carmack created this elaborate world, and that, these guys were really into it. Like when, I can't remember what happened, like their characters died, it was like an apocalypse of some sort, and these guys were just like blown away, devastated. Like John Carmack was just pulling out all the stops, and yeah, man. So the way they described it, I read this book about 3 years ago, and it started getting me thinking about that sounds pretty cool. I wish I knew someone who did that, right? Okay, the other book I read about a year ago now, a little over a year ago, and it is Ready Player One, and this is kind of a science fiction near future. I think it takes place in the year 2044. There we go. In the year 2044, reality is an ugly place. The only time teenage Wade Watts really feels alive is when he's jacked into the virtual utopia known as the Oasis. Wade's devoted his life to studying the puzzles hidden within this world's digital confines, puzzles that are based on their creator's obsession with pop culture of decades past, and that promises massive power and fortune to whoever can unlock them. But when Wade stumbles upon the first clue, he finds himself beset by players willing to kill to take this ultimate prize. The race is on, and if Wade's going to survive, he'll have to win and confront the real world he's always been so desperate to escape. So, yeah, it's an awesome book. Man, I just loved it. It's really just, it's got a lot of fan service, and it's just really chock full of I don't know, nerd culture references that, any good nerd would love. It's got Star Wars, comic books, D&D, computer games, rock and roll. It's got the whole 9 yards. So I highly recommend it if you are into any of those things. I think it's just, if you grew up in the 80s, it's an awesome book because it's just so full of 80s nostalgia. It's just one big nostalgia hit. And one of the things they mention in here is a D&D novel. And actually, in the Oasis, in the virtual world that he is plugged into, where he has his adventures, one of the challenges he faces is an old D&D module that has been actually brought to life in the Oasis. So anyway, it sounded really cool, and it's another thing that just made me think, like, oh, I gotta check out D&D. And so I finally did. Pathfinder is something I had heard about on, actually, it was giantbomb.com. The giantbomb.com guys had talked about maybe playing D&D, and someone recommended Pathfinder to them, and I think they did play it. And I used to be really into giantbomb.com. Yeah, so that's how I heard of Pathfinder specifically. So I checked it out, and I put up a message on Facebook, and I'm actually going to post the picture here. Juice doesn't know I'm doing this, but I reached out on Facebook and got in touch with him. Basically, I posted on an online gaming group, Grand Rapids Video Gamers or something like that, Grand Rapids Gaming Group. And I said, hey, does anyone want to play D&D Pathfinder? I'm never played it before, but I want to try it. And yeah, again, just kind of reached out saying this is something I want to do. So I reached out and I found someone who played role-playing games, and that was Juice. So here is the actual conversation. Apparently he didn't actually reply to my message directly on the post. He sent me a private message. So here is that private message that started it all. Thought I'd give people a look at this. Make sure you check out Juice's channel, Tabletop Gaming with Juice. I'll put a link in the description below. Now, getting together with Juice took quite a while, so I actually, my first role-playing game experience was heading up to a game shop to play Pathfinder Society. Someone had just mentioned, hey, try game shops. Game shops have games going on all the time. And so I looked, and I found that there's a local game shop that runs Pathfinder Society. And I went up there and I gave it a shot. And, you know, say what you will about Pathfinder Society. I know a lot of people love to hate it, but those guys were welcoming. They said, yeah, come on, you're new? So what? Yeah, come on, sit down. Here, have some dice. Here, have a mini, right? And they hooked me up and just got me going and helped me out and were super welcoming. And it was fun. That's the main thing. I had fun. So, if you're on the fence about tabletop role-playing games, maybe you've been lurking out there in the shadows watching my channel here and there, give it a try. Reach out, find someone, and join the Tabletop RPG one-shot group maybe, or just, hey, go up to a local game shop, post online somewhere that, hey, I'm looking for a gaming group, I want to give it a shot. And reach out and find people to game with, because, man, it is awesome. It's been a great year. Thank you for all of you who have been interacting with me and helping me along this journey of just learning about tabletop role-playing games and getting better, getting to be a better gamer, better game master. And yeah, it's been a lot of fun. So that's it for this one, everybody. Oh, my 1-year channel anniversary is coming up in a couple weeks. It's May 29, which is about 20 days away. And I think it would be an awesome goal if I could get 2,000 subscribers by my 1-year anniversary. I'm close. I just got 1,800, so a couple hundred more in 20 days. I don't know. I think it's doable. All right. Anyway, that's it for this one, everybody. Take care. I'll see you next time.